And welcome to the HRM chapter meeting. Before we begin, I'm going to pass around the attendance for the folks who are here. And if you are new and would like to get our flyer, then leave your email address. If you don't want to be getting my emails, and I do try to limit them, just don't leave your email. So I'm going to pass that around. And also take a evaluation sheet. And for those folks that are on the webcast, it might be nice if you had a comment at the end to type in your comment about how you enjoyed the session or what you got out of it, or if there were any concerns. I'll begin by introducing tonight's speaker. It's Dr. Zenovia Ursuliak, who is with the Early Psychosis Program, and she's been doing motivational interviewing for a number of years. Zenovia has her PhD in molecular biology from Simon Fraser University in 1998 and completed a residency in psychiatry at Dalhousie in 2006. She developed a wellness program for young adults with psychosis during her fellowship in psychotherapy at Dal in 2007. Since 2007, she has been an assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatry at Dalhousie University and a psychiatrist with the Nova Scotia Early Psychosis Program. Zenovia teaches motivational interviewing and group psychotherapy to residents and uses motivational interviewing to promote health and build communication skills with patients and their families. And Zenovia, you might want to, at some point, you might want to mention this research project that you're working on, okay, just to alert people that things are happening. Okay, so thank you.
Great. Zenovia. Be continuing. I recognize some faces in the audience, so you might have seen this presentation before a number of years ago, and motivational interviewing hasn't changed that much over the years. I might have updated some of the slides, but we're going to be doing some small group exercises, which I think are fun to learn from. So I learned motivational interviewing with the through a trainer with the addictions in mental health services. So I learned it that way. And when I was first asked to do this presentation for family members, I was asked to do it in the context of a book by a psychologist named Xavier Amador. And the book is called I'm Not Sick, I Don't Need Help. And you might be familiar with the book. And so I'm going to teach you the motivational interviewing sort of through the way he teaches it, because it's possible that you might already have that book, and he made it accessible for family members. So when I teach it to residents, I teach it a slightly different way, and that's because I have basically many more hours to teach them, and they go in supervision with me for many weeks. But I'm going to teach you sort of the gist of it through that model. Can you change the slide, please? So these might be the issues that you struggle with your family members. So not taking medications, doing drugs, street drugs, sleeping in late, and not leaving the house, not talking, or maybe talking about things that distress you. Is there anything else that you can think of in terms of your relationship with your loved one that might be distressful to you?
I don't want to talk to you at all.
Yeah, okay, definitely. That's very distressful. Do you want to change the slide? So so you would like them to change some of those behaviors, right? So the first thing we're going to do is get into groups of 3. And I would encourage you to maybe don't work with people that you already know really well, so that you kind of change it up a bit. And I think that since we only have are you going to work in a group of 3?
Sure, why not?
So we'll have 2 groups of 3 and 2 groups of 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to number you. 1, remember your number. Okay. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Now, you guys don't have a 3. Number 3s are the observer. Number 1s, I'm going to give So number twos, you have the great chance to think about something in your life. Now you're not going to think about your loved ones. You're going to think about yourself. Something in your life that you've thought about changing. It might be that you've thought about learning how to play the piano. You've thought about going to the gym to lose some weight. You've thought about quitting smoking. You've thought, something that you feel comfortable talking about, something that it's not too emotionally charged to talk about. And so think about something right now that you feel comfortable talking about. And number one is going to interview number two. And number three is going to watch and give some feedback at the end. So number one, I have a sheet for you that's going. So number two, you're going to tell number one what you're thinking of changing in your life. And then number one is going to follow these instructions. Here's the other number one.
Yeah.
Don't let number two see.
Okay.
But you're going to follow those instructions to help number two to make that change. So you're going to start off, so if you can kind of spread out through the room. And number two, you're going to tell number one what you're thinking of changing, and then number one's going to launch into this.
Okay, I was just thinking maybe the folks that on the webcast can join in this if one of the groups goes outside and then the other group can stay in here on the webcast.
That means that someone's willing to get videotaped?
Yeah.
Is someone willing to get videotaped?
Sure.
Okay.
You all right?
Well, you two were the observers.
No, I'm one.
Oh, you.
No, yeah, there's
Oh,
no
okay.
observers
Oh,
in there.
okay.
So actually
All
they're
right.
perfect for getting videotaped.
So it may be helpful for those at home to go through this role play too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm one with her. And you're three, so you're an observer. You have, oh, okay.
So which
Right.
group should go outside? Why don't you pick that right now so that we don't delay? Maybe your group?
Okay, yep, we'll go.
You guys,
Yep, we'll go
do you need
outside.
chairs?
We can take our chairs.
All right.
It's not that long.
Pardon?
Yeah, and
No,
it's
it don't
gonna
only
be very
take a minute,
short,
but-
just a few minutes. So I'm gonna stop it in just a few minutes. And
Okay, yeah, we'll just go
I'm gonna give you
one,
about
I need
4
a
minutes
two
to
and a
do this.
three. Any one of you.
So
Okay.
number two, you're gonna be the one who's gonna be telling Donna what you need,
Okay.
what you're thinking of changing.
All right.
Do you want me to carry your chair for you?
So I think it's just you and I.
Okay, so
Yeah.
who's going to be actually on camera?
We're gonna be on camera.
Us two, I guess. There's only.
Yeah, you guys are only looking at two.
Oh, okay.
Wanna move
So
them
if
over
you want,
here
oh,
so
we
you
can
don't
go
pick up
over
the
there.
stand? Do you wanna move them over here so you don't pick up the
We can
stand?
stand up.
Well, I mean, the microphone's over here anyways.
Well, we can go
It
over
actually
there,
picks up the
Todd.
entire room, so.
We can just go over there.
Okay.
I don't need, I don't think.
Actually, yeah, in that case, I will switch to.
No, it's not. Short exercise.
Yeah, where do you want us?
Yeah, if you want to go over there.
We'll just stand.
Okay.
It
It might be easier if we sit for the
Oh, okay.
camera. Yeah, just so that Todd can get us. Okay, all right. Now,
All right.
do I have to tell you?
Yes.
Okay, what I would like to change is I would like to be able to take time to exercise. It seems to be, I really want to do that, but it's kind of last on my list after I finish all the chores and projects and stuff like that.
Okay, so a good reason to do the exercise is so that it keeps us healthy. And let me think here now. Making this change would be very beneficial, and as we age, it's good to keep the body going, and I think the better health that we're in at a particular age, and it influences how we will be later on down the road. Into a routine, and so maybe that would keep you going for a period of time. And it might help you lose some weight if you're interested in that.
Yeah, I know all that, but it seems like everything else is a priority before that. I think I'm project oriented, so a successful day is when I complete some projects. So I have a real tough time making that a priority and actually taking time to do that.
So,
That's understandable because it's always hard to change our behavior. And as we learned before, actually change is a process. And you have to think about it and maybe even visualize yourself doing it. That works for me sometimes.
Yeah.
So, I visualize what it is I want to accomplish. I want my clothes to fit me better. So I visualize that. So I'm at the point, do I want that food or do I want the clothes to fit?
I want both.
Don't we all?
I love this.
But it doesn't work that way. You have the food, the sizes go up. I know personal experience. Okay, explain to the person how. Okay, you can make this change by visualizing. You can make this change also by maybe picking out the part of the day that might work best. And actually, if you have a calendar of your week, sometimes I find it beneficial to put the, make a block of time where I'm going to do that.
Try to wrap it up in about 1 minute.
Okay. It's important to make this change. If you don't make it, then you won't
Fit into my clothes anymore.
So, do you feel that, does any of that help you?
Oh, I think the visualization would help. I've often done the blocks of time,
Right,
but then I just ignore it.
okay.
But
But you put other things in blocks of time, like you're a sewer.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if you're making something, you
So
must
we're gonna
schedule
wrap
that.
up in the next 10 seconds.
Okay,
So maybe you could just think about that.
I'll
and
think about that.
Follow it that way.
Excellent. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Everybody, come back. Thank you. It was a pleasure to watch you guys. I love your visualization comments.
Okay.
Thank you for doing this exercise. I'm gonna wrap it up. So, I want to hear from the number 3s. Actually, no, I'm gonna ask the number 2s first, the ones who were interviewed, the ones who were trying to make the change. I want to hear from them first. How did it feel? What was it like to be in your seat?
Well, it was a little uncomfortable, and as good as Nancy's questions were, I didn't think that she actually sort of realized that I was the one who had to sort of come to the conclusion myself that these were gonna have to be the changes that I would have to make. And I didn't think she asked me very many questions about me personally and how I was feeling.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Now I want to hear from number 3s because your job was the role of the observer. What did you observe? What are your thoughts about what you saw?
Well, I was pretty surprised because I've seen motivational interviewing before, and I thought it was going to be like that, but it was more, if I had been number 2, it would felt kind of like you were being bullied.
Ah, okay.
And, being told what you have to do and why you have to do it. And
That's what you thought. Can we check in with your number 2? Do you want to ask her what it felt like?
what did it feel like? Did it feel like you were
I'll
being
tell you
bullied?
what it felt like.
Deb said it almost seemed like you were being bullied to change.
Oh yeah, there was no ifs, ands, or buts. I didn't have any chance to say, well, maybe we can try it slow, and maybe if I cut back or whatever. No. Smoking's bad for you. Smoking's, you're gonna kill yourself. We see, red dog, all this kind of stuff.
All right. Do any of the other number 2s want to give a comment? Thank you both.
Yeah, I felt encouraged encouragement and support.
Oh, lovely. You probably weren't following the directions then, were you?
I thought everything went too easy.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Well, that's lovely. I wonder why that happened. Did you follow the instructions? No.
Yes and no.
Yes and
The
no?
topic was a little easier than I thought.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't really a negative issue that we were dealing with, it was a positive issue that
Ah.
we were dealing with. So it was more just to convince how to go about doing it.
Yeah. So she had a strong motivation for change, and you really just sort of supported that and really kind of.
Yeah, because it was a good change,
So you guys were kind of on the same page
yes.
already. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad. Thank you for doing that exercise. If you want to change the slide, actually just flip right. Sorry.
Can I have a question?
Yes.
As the interviewer, I wasn't quite sure if she was supposed to talk.
Good point.
Good point.
Well,
Yeah.
I wasn't because I had all these things to get in within that period of time, and I wasn't sure if I was supposed to do all the talking. And then when she started talking, I
That is an excellent observation that you were doing most of the talking. Yeah, that's an excellent observation. This exercise was set up to do that.
So I didn't know if I was supposed to allow her to talk.
Well, if you followed the instructions, you probably would let her talk very little.
Yeah, exactly, and that was difficult.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one. That's just the instructions. All right. So persuasion is the act of making someone do something by arguing with him or advising them. And that's what you just did. That was the exercise. You were trying to persuade someone to change. And motivational interviewing is not that. So you just did what was not motivational interviewing so that you can see the difference. Can you go to the next slide? So most people, so it's okay to try to persuade someone to change if someone's really geared towards change, like in your example, because you guys were both really working towards it, and then you're just there helping them. But if someone doesn't want to change, then telling them to change usually doesn't work. And what I found is that most people are not resistant to change, they're resistant to being changed by someone else. And the subtlety of motivational interviewing is how to facilitate someone changing without pushing them to change. And so that's hopefully what we can get into. Next slide. So this book, you might have seen it before, I'm Not Sick, I Don't Need Help, by Dr. Xavier Amador. That's his website. You can go and look at it. You will have copies of these slides. And so one of the his brother had schizophrenia, and he was a psychologist. So this was a very personal journey for him to write this book and to really incorporate it into his practice, to use motivational interviewing to really, in his own life, to help his brother who did not want to take medications, who spent many, many years being sick, to help his brother along and to also help family members. So one of the big reasons people don't take medication, which is one of the biggest things, or don't try to take care of themselves in the way that you want them, is that they don't have insight into the fact that they actually have an illness. And about 32% of people with schizophrenia lack insight altogether into their illness. That's a third, that's a big chunk. About a quarter are moderately unaware, meaning that they're aware of symptoms, some symptoms, but they're not aware of the full gamut of symptoms. So they might be aware that they have sleep problems, or they get very stressed out, or maybe that they feel over anxious at times, and that's what they might call it, but they might not be aware of the symptoms that you observe, like the big changes in their behavior and their speech and the way they think, the delusions, the hallucinations. And 40% of people are aware of their symptoms. And so he was really trying to understand, why are people with schizophrenia not aware of their illness? Is it just simple denial? Is it just they just deny it, like it's just a psychological reaction and they deny it? And that is probably a factor, but there's also another factor, and it's actually part of the illness. It's actually, and he sort of started to understand this by studying people with stroke. And some people with stroke don't recognize that their arm is paralyzed, and they actually think their arm is still working. And this phenomenon is what a fancy name is called anosognosia. And it means that you're not aware that you have this illness. And you're just unaware of it. It's something about the illness itself that makes it undetectable to you. And he thinks that this is a big part of schizophrenia, the people who don't have insight into their illness. So he studied, lots of these people who don't have awareness of their illness actually over time can learn to take care of themselves, get into regular treatment, and can go into recovery. And he was looking at how do these people who don't admit or aren't aware of their illness, how do they get better? And so he studied which things predicted getting better. Number one is insight. But if you don't have insight, he also said the other big thing is your relationship with your family members and your relationship with your clinicians. And there's a couple of things, or actually 3 things about that relationship. The nature of that relationship will help people recover. And number 1 is that the other person, meaning you or your clinicians, believe that they will benefit from the medication, believe that they'll benefit from stopping marijuana, believe that they'll benefit by getting out of bed and moving forward towards some sort of goal, that you believe that, you have that hope in that. And the other 2 things is that you respect their point of view and that you establish trust in the relationship. And those 2 things are things that are modifiable by using motivational interviewing. So those are the things that we can impact on with motivational interviewing. So if you can go to the next slide. So what is motivational interviewing? So actually this might have changed since I last gave this talk to this chapter. It's basically the same thing that you might have learned a few years ago. But what it is a collaborative conversation style for strengthening a person's own motivation and commitment for change. The textbook, there's a new textbook, it came out in 2012. It's actually, if one of you wanted to get it in the library, it's actually a really easy to read textbook. It's something that they have really good case examples, and they'll run you through the dialogue, and you can really see the things happening in place. So it might use different language than what you'll get out of Amador's book, but it's so user-friendly. Like a lot of textbooks I used to fall asleep with because they would just bore me with this, intellectual language. But this, I'm like, oh my God, it's like reading a novel. It read so clearly. They're written by 2 psychologists, Miller and Rolnick, and they've been doing motivational interviewing for basically the past 30 years. And this website that's down below, the motivationalinterviewing.org, is their official website, and it has a whole bunch of resources on it. So you might want to browse that website sometime. So motivational interviewing fits really nicely with a theory of change made by two other psychologists, Prochaska and Di Clemente. And they were studying how do people make changes. So they came up with this, by studying how people make changes, they came up with this model that depicts a person going through change. Now it's just a model, it's a theory, so it doesn't describe naturally everyone. But if we start over at that far side where it says pre-contemplation, that's someone, let's talk about cigarette smoking. That's someone, if you talk to them, you say, do you want to quit smoking? They're like, why? I love smoking. Why would I even think about quitting smoking? That's someone who's pre-contemplative about quitting smoking. And the word denial below there, I don't like that word. That's kind of pejorative. That says that they're in denial of their problem. We try to stay away from that language in motivational interviewing and just say they're pre-contemplative. They're not ready to think about quitting smoking. The next stage that someone moves into is contemplation stage. And that's someone who's like, yeah, they're on the fence. They're like, yeah, I really do want to quit smoking because it's expensive. And I know, I know my lungs aren't as good as they used to be. And my daughter would really love it if I quit smoking, but I can't. It's just something that I love so much. It goes so well with that morning coffee. So they're kind of 2 minds. They're sitting on the fence. And then someone moves into the determination or preparation stage. And that's where they're planning. They actually have decided, they've jumped over the fence and they've decided to quit. And now they're planning how they're going to quit. Most people skip this stage, but we put it in there because it's an important stage to plan how you're going to make a change, to really think about it. What will throw you off? What will help you along so that you have a better chance of making a change successfully? Then there's actions where you're actually doing it. You're quitting smoking. Maybe you're using nicotine replacement therapy. Maybe you're going to support groups. Maybe you've changed some of your habits during the day, and it's really at the top of your mind. And it's like you're really motivated towards it. And then after about 3 to 6 months, you might move into the maintenance phase, where it's kind of moved to the back of your mind, and it's just sort of become a part of your life. And that's actually the time that you're likely to forget about your reasons for doing it, and you might start smoking again if something really stressful happens, and then you relapse. And this is a natural cycle. People don't necessarily move nicely through all the stages. They can get stuck, and they might go back and forth. But the important part is this part over here, the pre-contemplation and the contemplation, because those are where most of motivational interviewing techniques have been targeted for, to help people move along the stages of change. You can utilize motivational interviewing all the way through, and there's ways to do it, but we're going to focus in on those first two because that's really where a lot of people get stuck, right? And it's good to know whether your person that you're working with, that you're talking with, your loved one, whether they're in pre-contemplative or contemplative, because that'll make a difference in what kind of ways you'll interact with them. Not a huge difference, but it is a shuttle. There is a difference, and we'll hopefully get into it at our next session. I don't think Amador really differentiates between pre-contemplative and contemplative. So I'm gonna go into his steps and sort of teach you the basic steps that you can use in both of those stages of change. And then when we go into the next session next month, I'll teach you the little differences between them. So the basic steps are the LEAP steps. Has anyone read the book? Yeah. Has everyone read the book? No, okay, good. And it seems, what I will say is that it seems like such common sense to read through these steps. But what I'll say is to actually do it and to consistently do it is a whole other ball game. And what I've seen, because I've taught residents, I've taught some of my colleagues, like the nurses that I work with, I've taught family medicine residents, psychiatry residents, and I've worked with family members. And it is far harder for family members to learn how to do this. And it's not because you haven't studied psychology or psychiatry. It's because of your emotional attachment to the person. The emotional attachment drives up the fear of them not changing, or the anger of them not changing. And those two emotions can come in and sidestep all your good intentions to follow these steps, right? And that's it. When I teach psychiatry residents, they're way less, they care. Most of them really care, but they don't care the same way that you do. You've committed a lifetime to these people, right? So your amount of caring just pushes those buttons so strongly. So I really know that I see it and I can feel it. And now that I have a child and they don't do what I want them to do, I understand it. It's like, oh! So the first step is to listen to their point of view. It's hard to listen to them talking about something that you really don't want them to be doing, right? And just listen. The other thing, after you listen to that, then you have to empathize with that. And that means not that you agree with it, but that you demonstrate to them that you understood their point of view. Definitely not the same as agreeing, but sometimes it feels like you're agreeing with them if you don't put your opinion in there, right? Because it feels like you're saying, yeah, that's okay, but there is a difference. There is a difference. And if you don't agree with their point of view on that thing, you do need to find something that you do agree with them on. And that's where you can start to build the trust. So you find goals or facts that you can agree on to establish common ground. Now, what I say here is that people, I put my name there in that bracket because this is my comment. The rest, the brackets are me, the other things are Dr. Amador. you still need to respect your own values and boundaries. So this agreeing doesn't mean that you sacrifice your own values, right? If they're living at home with them, it doesn't mean that they have free reign to do whatever they want in your home. This is your home, and you have, it's perfectly okay for you to put up your values and boundaries in that home and set limits, right? So once you find that common ground that you can agree on, then you go into partnership. Is can you help them? Can you collaborate on accomplishing the goals that you've agreed on together? Next slide. So what are some listening guidelines? Set aside time. This might be hard if they don't want to talk, right? So you might want to set aside time, but they don't want to set aside time. So maybe it means setting aside time that's convenient to them, or finding the times that they'll be willing to have you around, or that you're doing something together where it seems more natural to have the conversation. Agree on agenda, which means not your agenda. Usually it means following their lead. Don't push your agenda. Listen to what this might mean listening to what they enjoy about the problem behavior. It might mean listening to what they enjoy about smoking pot. And while you're listening, you're taking note about what they believe about themselves, what they believe about the illness, what they believe is possible. Like, you're learning, even though you might not like the topic, you're actually learning a great deal about them. So if you were, it was almost like if you were an investigative reporter, it's like you're understanding more about the story of their lives. And he actually suggests to take notes if you learn really important things. So listen to what they enjoy about the problem behavior, or what they don't like about the desired behavior, what they don't like about taking medication. Be really curious about that, right? And try to learn as much as you can, because the more knowledge you have about them, the more you can understand them. And in that, you're listening to beliefs about what they believe about themselves, what they believe about the illness, what they believe about their future. Don't react. I mean, don't jump in with your own opinion, which is so hard. And my comment is, that doesn't mean that your opinions aren't important. It just means if you share it with them at that time, it will start to move away from motivational interviewing. But your opinions and your emotions are important, and you need to share. I suggest you find someone to share them with who listens and empathizes with you, right? Because it's tough work to empathize with them and have no one to empathize with you. So find someone, friend, family member, co-worker, professional, who's there to listen to your side of the story, because you will need to speak your side of the story too. Let chaos be, meaning if they're disorganized, a lot of people try to organize someone by interrupting and trying to put their sentence together. Someone, just let them speak at their own pace. Means a lot of patience on your behalf. Echo what you hear, echo what you heard, that gets a little bit into the empathizing. And write it down, meaning write down what you learned about them so that you remember that and you might be able to put 2 and 2 together later on. So empathizing, that's the E of the lead steps. You can empathize with their frustrations. They might be really frustrated that their medicine has caused them to gain weight, or that the medicine makes them sleepy. You empathize with their fears, discomfort, desires, and reflective listening is the key skill. It actually is like the foundational skill of motivational interviewing. And after I learned motivational interviewing in the last year of my residency, because we didn't teach it at Dalhousie until I actually learned it, and now I teach it, is when I went and I started to go back to all the other psychotherapists, all like cognitive behavioral therapy, psychodynamic therapy, I realized that reflective listening is one of the key skills of all the different types of therapies. It's just that we really kind of spell it out in motivational training. So let's go into what does it mean to do, what is reflective listening? Basically, it's showing to the other person that you understand the meaning of what they just said. It's a reasonable guess as to what the person means. Normally given as a statement rather than a question. So let's say you just heard them say, I hate this medication, it makes me so sleepy, I feel like it makes me dim-witted. So you could say back to them, so that medication really slows you down. So I kind of just paraphrased what they just said. And I said it as a statement. And then I could have said it, so it really slows you down? Like a question? And then be like, are you just listening to me? Why do you have to ask that question? So I try to say it as a statement, so if you get it wrong, they'll correct you. Believe me, they'll correct you. The reason that I suggest it to say it as a statement is just that it can, if you always give your reflective listenings as questions, it can slow down and they can start to get frustrated and think that you're not listening to them. And I try to paraphrase as much as possible and not repeat back word for word, because also if I repeated back word for word everything that they said, after a few times people kind of go, what's going on here? Why are you repeating back every word I say? So try to just give a gist of what they just said. And that can get, it's something that you'll play with. It doesn't matter if you repeat right now when you're practicing, it doesn't matter if you repeat back every word. It's just the idea of that you're really paying attention to what they're saying. You can also reflect back feelings and behaviors too. So if you see that they're angry and they're like, and you're like, wow, you seem really, really angry right now. Sometimes that can work beautifully and they're like, yeah, why shouldn't I be angry? Yeah, right, why, you have every right to be angry. People think that people are hesitant to reflect back feelings, especially angry feelings, but I find that if you keep doing it, that actually can calm people down, that they feel that they're being heard. But don't expect that when you reflect it back right away that they're just automatically not going to be angry, because it usually takes a minute or two for anger to start to settle down. Or that, you seem sad. You seem sad. Avoid arguments. So when you start arguing for change, they will likely argue why they shouldn't change. It's called the righting reflex. It's like human nature. You push this way, they'll push back that way. And motivational interviewing is a way for you to recognize when that's happening. Oh, okay, it's happening. It happens with me. It happens with anyone who's doing motivational interviewing. You'll eventually get into a place where you're like, oh, I'm actually arguing for them to change, and they're starting to argue back. So I recognize that, so I'm going to try something different. So when you find yourself in an argument, it will happen. Go back to reflective listening to understand their point of view, and you'll start to see the shift in the relationship between you as you start to reflect to them that you understand them. It does not mean, once again, that you can't set boundary limits. You can say no to unreasonable requests, right? Always do. Karen, do you want to do another exercise? How are we doing for time? Oh, good, we're doing great. Because this exercise will take another 5 minutes, and I have 2 more slides to show you of some really interesting questions to ask people that plant seeds for change. And then I wanted to have how I wanted to end off is to have someone volunteer to be their son or daughter or loved one and come up here in the front, and I'll interview you with motivational interviewing. If someone's willing to do that. If no one's willing to do that, then we can just ask questions. Would anybody be willing to do that, volunteer at the end? If you're not, you could also volunteer just to talk about a change that you're thinking of making.
If no one else will volunteer, I'll volunteer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Contemplation exercise. Do you guys want to get back into your groups?
Okay.
Okay.
So the same.
I've got a new thing for you to.
I need to see if she's okay.
So now all number ones. Is your number 1 out of the room, or is she number 2?
She's number 2. but
Okay,
she's
good.
coughing, yeah.
She's coughing.
Yes, so
Caffeine.
the seeds should be back.
So all number 1s, it's your turn to be interviewed. So you need to think about something you feel comfortable talking about. Some sort of change, not a very big change, just some sort of change you're thinking about. And number 2, actually, how many number 3s do we have?
I thought there were 2.
How about number 3s? You're going to do the interviewing. And sorry,
So number 2.
you're number 2. So what did I say? Number ones?
Number ones are gonna be interviewed.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna have the.
number ones, because you guys were the ones who were interviewing before.
Right.
So you're going to be interviewed, and number 3s are going to interview, and now number 2s are going to watch. Does that make sense? But you don't have a number 2, so you guys will just switch
we'll
roles.
see if she's okay.
So number 2s are watching, number 3s are interviewing, and number 1s are have a change, and they got to tell the person what the change is. And so I've got instructions for number 3s.
Okay, do you want to just come over here? Maybe I'll take,
Sure.
in case she doesn't come back.
Whatever.
Yeah?
Okay.
Well, weren't you the one who was going to be interviewed?
Yeah, I'll interview. Oh,
You're
okay.
being
Oh,
interviewed.
Or how
pardon?
about
Let me just
Being
go see.
interviewed.
Right, I'm being interviewed, but yeah, okay.
Or maybe you're number 2? I'm sorry, I don't know your name with the
Amy.
beret.
Amy.
Did you could, if she doesn't come back, maybe you could do the interview with her.
Okay.
Let's see.
So should we go outside?
Yeah, why don't you guys get
Yeah,
started?
we'll go outside and, okay.
So you guys are gonna
Oh.
switch roles, right?
Yes.
I'll bring this chair,
I'm
Amy,
the
for you.
interviewee.
Amy, you can have this chair and I'll take the other
No,
one.
you're gonna interview me.
I'm the interviewer.
Yeah.
Yes.
She got the paper?
Yeah, yes. You guys wanna be videotaped again?
I don't care.
It's a lot of fun.
Does somebody else wanna be videotaped?
You guys wanna be videotaped?
No, go ahead.
You weren't
Bring
blind.
you back the chair. Yeah, these are your instructions.
Okay.
I'll sit here just.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, let me think of something now. Oh,
Are
do you want me
ready?
to tell you?
Yeah, let's start with.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I went to a naturopath the other day and she did a little test. And she decided that I'm allergic to potato substances and sugar. And so now I have to change my diet. And that's just kind of ridiculous. So, you know.
Why would you wanna make this change?
Well, she says, you know, my digestive system would work better and, you know, I'd feel better overall. But it's a lot of work, a lot of change.
Mhm. Now, if you did decide to make this change, how might you go about it in order to succeed?
That's a good question.
That's what I'm here for.
You know, it's a whole change. It's a learning experience. I thought it might be easier than it is. You can't just walk into the store. Everything has sugar in it. And, you know, she's given me some hints and that sort of thing. But, and you know, I love cake and ice cream. So it's very hard not to eat that, especially on celebrations.
Oh, it must be overwhelming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it certainly is.
Oh. Now, what are the 3 best reasons do you think for doing this?
Well, you know, I went to a naturopath. I went to one before and I didn't quite like that one, so I haven't gone back for quite a while, but I do quite like this one. She explains things and she seems to know her stuff and she gives me things that I understand and she'll talk me through things. What was your question?
What would you think would be the 3 best reasons for maybe following through with this advice? What kind of a change would it make for you?
What kind of a change would it make?
Health-wise, I guess.
Well, I get I get a lot of nausea. So she kind of explained that, you know, medication just works on the symptoms, but the cure isn't there. So I wouldn't have the nausea, I guess, and a lot of bloating. Good topic. And let me think now. Just overall good
So
health.
you'd feel,
I'd feel better.
yeah. How important would you say it is for you to make this change on a scale of 1 to 10, or 0 to 10, where 0 is not at all important and 10 is extremely important?
You know, it's really funny because in order to make a change, you kind of have to trust the person who is talking to you about making this change, because I do trust her. You know, she knows, she seems, her logic I can understand. It kind of fits with mine. So I would give it about a 7. I'm not totally, you know, gung-ho or, it seems to be a little overwhelming to learn all about these new, you know, foods that I've never really looked at closely. I've looked at calories and fat before, but I haven't looked at sugar content and eaten in a more natural way, so.
And
sure.
what is it, what's missing that wouldn't make you closer to a 10 than a 7, as far as how important it is for you to make this change?
Say that again, please.
So you're deciding on a scale from 0 to
Right.
10, where 0 is not important at all, and 10 is extremely important.
Yes.
And how come you are, and why are you at a 7 rather than, it says here a lower number,
That's the right question.
rather than a lower number?
Why am I more geared to doing it than not?
Yeah.
Just because of the health situations that I've had, and like I say, I trust her, and I've been working with her now for a while.
Great.
And I guess that would be it.
Yeah, so you have confidence in her that it's if you follow her instructions, that
Right.
it's gonna make a
Right.
beneficial change for you.
Yes, that's right.
Well, I think you should. I think we're finished. Are we finished? Yeah, we're finished. Great.
So there's 2 ways you did love me, by the way. Oh, 2 ways you can ask her questions. Why were you on 7 rather than a 3? And then you'll get more. Oh, why? And also ask it, what would it take for you to get from 7?
Yeah, that's what I would.
You can ask it both ways.
Yeah, what's missing then? You know, not
Yeah.
10. Yeah. Great.
One way is to consolidate why she wants to change. The other way, puts her thinking about what would help her to change even further.
Yeah. Great.
Right. You can go to the next slide when you have a chance, Donna.
Maybe.
So,
But basically.
actually, maybe we'll just stop here. What was it like for the people who got interviewed this time? Sorry, we're wrapping up. What was it like to get interviewed?
It was okay.
It was okay?
Yeah.
Can I ask you, where do you think you were on the stage of change? Were you contemplative or pre-contemplative?
Well, see, the problem is I'm already doing it.
Oh, you're already changing. Wow. Okay.
So I was trying to remember back before
Yeah.
I had, but it is a change thing that's ongoing. Maybe I should have picked something else.
No. Anybody else want to say what it was like? How did it feel to be interviewed?
Well, I think she really did follow the Amador's approach, and she was very empathetic, and no opinions or whatever, just really listened and empathized with what I was going through.
Okay, and
So it was very good.
I want to ask you guys a question. Thank you. Who talked more? The interviewer or the person being interviewed?
person being interviewed.
Yeah?
Definitely.
Did your group notice the same thing?
It's probably about 50-50.
Yeah.
Okay, 50-50.
Yeah. I'd
And
say
what did the
50-50.
observers say? What did the observers notice?
I noticed that the interviewee, was a little hesitant at first, but our interviewer was very good and, stuck to the goal and, didn't waver from it, and was very supportive of any responses that the interviewee
Okay.
had, and,
Okay.
and was helpful and guided, was good at guiding what the next question was gonna be so the interviewee,
Didn't
Good.
seem like bullying.
no,
No.
it was, very supportive.
Yeah, great. That's great. Anybody else want to say what it felt, what they noticed?
I think it was very supportive as well, and listening and empathizing, and that opened up more conversation, I think.
Good. That's lovely. All right, let's go on to the next slide. So here's some questions. So once you've spent all this time listening and empathizing, then I suggest you can ask some of these questions. These are like questions to explore potential for change. So let's say I'll just fill in the blank with smoking, quit smoking. So some evocative questions. What would have to happen for you to think about quitting smoking? What would be some of the good things about quitting smoking? You can put in anything in the blank, right? So let's say you hear them talk a little bit like, maybe part of me would like to quit smoking. And they just kind of like squeak out a little bit, and you pick up on it, and you say, tell me more about that. That's just another way, and then you start to hear more. So if you hear anything that sounds like a potential for change, then just zone in on it. Tell me more, what does that mean? So that you can get more of their story about why they'd want to change. You could also ask, what is the worst thing that could happen to you if you continue to smoke? Looking back. So this is assuming that things were better in the past. Let's say there was a period of time they weren't a smoker. Before you started to smoke, how did your life compare to how it is now? And looking forward, what would your life be like in 5 years if you were able to quit smoking? Another thing, this is not a specific question, is that you determine what goals and values they have. For example, let's say one of their goals is to get back on a soccer team, right? You find out that that's really something that they love, and then you say, okay, so your goal is to get back into playing soccer on a rec team. How does you smoking influence that goal? You don't say positively or negatively, just say, how does smoking influence that goal? And then if you're being really sorry, I don't think smoking influences my ability to smoke. You say, really, you don't think that there's anything, there's no ways that smoking actually might get in the way of that goal? And it's just an exploratory question. So let's say they value independence. That's their value. They come up. I'll use a different example than smoking. So one of your things is that you really value independence and you want to move out of the house. Do you think that taking your medications would influence that or play into that in any way? Into you having your independence and being able to move out of the house? Just ask that question. So these are some little questions that you could ask to plant seeds. And if they say no, accept that, just back off. But the fact that you asked that question, it's now you've lodged a little seed in their mind, and they're actually probably going to think about it. And I ask these questions all the time without expecting. Sometimes I get nice answers that tell me that they actually are thinking about change, and sometimes I don't get anything. And I ask them the same question a couple of months down the line or a month down the line, and I notice subtle shifts. And I actually keep asking these questions. I don't ask them often enough to be a drag or to be like harping, but motivational interviewing is a long-term thing. Yes?
But looking forward, like, what would your life be like in 5 years if you were able to make the change?
Yeah.
Or the goal in 5 years? What do you do if the goal is to be off medication? That would be the 5-year goal, and be living on your own off medication.
Well, then you wouldn't use, if off medication is your goal and that's the thing that you want, then you wouldn't ask it around that. You find something else to ask, find some other goal or value that it would fit into.
Okay.
Good question. Good question. Now, do you guys want to watch me do a little bit of NY? Does anyone else besides Donna want to volunteer?
Yes, could someone else volunteer?
Volunteer to be your loved one? Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Now, volunteer to be my loved one?
Well, you can either volunteer to be a problem that you've experienced working with your loved one, or you could just be yourself thinking about a change. It doesn't matter which one. Just, it's.
Okay. Do I tell you what it is beforehand? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Tell me what the change is.
The change, okay. I'm the one with the problem, right?
Yeah.
You're the one thing that there's some sort of change that's in question. We won't label it a problem.
Okay. My living surroundings are an absolute mess, and hygienically, I don't think it's very safe. But I just could care less about actually doing the dishes or cleaning up the clothes or doing the kitty litter.
Okay. So your house is a mess.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you come up? Would you mind coming up here and sitting, kind of facing 45 degrees towards the front, like on the same angle, so we can look at each other and also be seen by the other people.
Like this?
Yeah. Exactly. Like this. Oh, sorry. Okay. That angle. Perfect. All right. So who am I addressing? Who am I talking about?
Oh, you're talking with Wendy.
Wendy, sure. So, Wendy, can you, I understand that you're, did you just tell me this, or did your mom tell me about this? About the house being messy?
My mother told me about it.
Okay. So Wendy, I'm just wondering, would it be all right if I asked you a few questions about how you like living at your place right now?
Sure.
Okay, can you tell me a bit about what's it like to be at your place?
Well, it's great because I have my own place, and I have a couple of kitties, and I do my own cooking, and had friends over, and it's just great.
Sounds awesome. So it sounds like you really love living there. You have your independence.
Yeah.
You're living your life the way you want.
Yeah.
Are there any downsides to living in this place?
Well, yeah, because my mom's not there to pick everything up and do the dishes. I hate doing dishes, and I don't like to pick up, and it's just a pain in the neck, but I do like living on my own.
Okay, so you like living there, but cleaning the place up is a drag.
Big drag.
Yeah, I understand that. What is it about cleaning up that you don't like?
Well, it's because you clean it up, and then a day later you have to clean it up again. So I sort of figure, like, why bother?
So it's kind of like it's this relentless task.
Yeah.
It never seems to it gets done, but it never lasts.
No, and it's just, it takes a lot of time, and even though I have a lot of time, I would prefer to watch TV or do something other than picking up clothes. I also hate to do the wash. The wash is, what a waste of time. So I just like to leave things on the floor.
Okay. So as much as you don't really like your house to be messy,
No, I don't really.
it doesn't seem like it's worth the time
No.
to put into cleaning it up. Yeah. Can you tell me about, would there be any benefits for you if it was clean and tidy?
Well, sometimes when my friends come over, they always say it's a mess.
Mm.
And sometimes, like, I just don't even see it. You know, I'm busy doing things that I like.
Yeah.
But sometimes it does kind of smell bad because the food is left on the plates in the bedroom.
Okay.
So
And how does that impact you when you start smelling that stinky food?
I have to get up and take it downstairs to the kitchen, and it interrupts my evening TV.
Okay. So there's something, so it interrupts your evening TV, and you like watching TV, but there's something about that smell of the food that just gets to you so much, you're actually willing to take the time out to go downstairs and take it away from you. What is it that bothers you so much that you're willing to put the effort in?
Well, because sometimes if I leave it there a long time, the bugs come,
Okay.
and I don't like the bugs.
Yeah.
On the
Can you tell me
plates.
more about that? What is it about?
That's kind of creepy because especially if I leave the plate on my bed, then the bugs get in my bed, and that's kind of creepy at night. So that makes, I do make an effort. Sometimes I put it under the bed, so it's not so bad.
Okay. So there are times when you actually have put efforts in to doing things in your house to tidy it up.
Yeah.
Because you don't like the bugs and you don't like the smell.
Yeah. Every once in a while I do.
Yeah. And you also mentioned that your friends sometimes say something about it.
Oh yeah, it's really embarrassing. That is embarrassing, I must say.
How come?
Well, because it at that point I realized that like I'm not taking care of things, and that's part of being independent is, you know, sort of taking care of your stuff. And so when my friends come over and say to me, "Oh, this place is a mess. You better do something," it sort of makes me feel that I'm not doing a very good job and I'm not taking care of things.
Okay, that sounds hard.
Yeah, that's embarrassing.
Yeah. So, it sounds like independence is important to you. And there's a part of independence that means taking care of your stuff and doing a good job at that. How important that part, because there's lots of other things about independence that you've already got nailed down, right? Like you are living your own life, you know, you're scheduling your life the way you want, you have your priorities the way you want. That piece about taking care of your own stuff, how important is that to you on a scale from 0 to 10, with 10 being really important and 0 being not important at all?
Probably a 6.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not a top priority, but I think it's important.
Okay. Why is it not a 3? Why did you say it's a 3 or a 2?
Because I don't think I'd be allowed to live in the house if I put that down to a 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Meaning what? That why wouldn't you be allowed to live in the house?
Because the person that I rent it from would probably evict me.
Oh.
Yeah. That wouldn't be good.
Yeah, that'd be a drag.
Yeah.
Okay. So you rate it as a 6. What would have to change for that 6 to become a 9? For that to become more important to you?
I really don't know. If it wouldn't get so messy, maybe it would be, you know, pleasant to be there.
Would you like it to be more pleasant to be there?
Yeah, but I'd like somebody else to come and do it.
Yeah? Hey, totally, I am 100% with you there. Do you have any ideas about how that could happen? Because you don't like cleaning.
No.
Do you have any ideas about how you could make that happen? Is there any way that you could do that so that someone else would do the cleaning? Do you have any ideas about that?
I don't know, maybe I could barter with somebody to do my cleaning, and maybe I could
That's an awesome idea.
write their songs for them or something.
I love that idea of bartering with someone. Do you know, so you would write, do you know so you're a songwriter?
Yeah.
Do you know anyone where that you think that might be a good thing to barter with, that you could barter your songs? Like, do you have anyone in mind?
Well, I actually do know one person that really likes to clean.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a friend of mine. He really likes to clean.
figuring out if this barter might work?
Well, I think maybe getting in touch with her and asking her to discuss my dilemma and asking her if there's something that I could do for her that she would do the cleaning for me.
Cool. When would you be ready? When would you be ready to take this step?
Well, I could make that phone call this week. I know her; she's a friend of mine.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Could I check in with you next week to see how it
Sure.
goes?
Yeah. That'd be fine. Excellent.
Thank you very much. That was awesome. So, you know what? That was amazing. And you know why I love motivational interviewing? Is because it's not like, as a doctor, I often think, I have the solutions in my head. I know exactly what that patient should do. Like I was already like forming the SMART goals of how she was gonna break down the cleaning tasks in her head into like small manageable bits, like cognitive behavioral therapy. So one part of my brain is thinking that. I know how she can solve this problem herself. But if I am true to motivational interviewing, I will follow her. And I will follow her. And what I love is when that process of following you, of following the people that I work with, leads to solutions that I never would have thought of, and that are not necessarily my solutions, but they solve the problem. And that's where motivational interviewing is such a gift, and where to me it's inspiring, because it's like, oh my God, the person that you're working with, the solution works for them. That's what's important, right? And so that solution, may work. Maybe it's not. Maybe she wouldn't have gone there in real life. But that's where the beauty is that you think you have solved the problem in your own head, and you only need to make the other person see it. But if you really follow them and you give them the chance and the support in a non-judgmental way to find their own solutions, and sometimes it's actually, sometimes you might throw an idea out there and they might take that idea somewhere else, and it kind of bounces back and forth, and it creates this whole new range of possibilities, and it's amazing. And it's beautiful. So thank you for that opportunity to do that.
My pleasure.
Does anyone have any questions? What was it like to watch from the external, what was it like to watch from your points of view?
You had a patient client that had some motivation to be able to come to a solution, and sounds like they would be able to follow it through. But then you also get other people who would not be able to come to solutions, and even if they did, would not be able to follow it through.
Yeah. So negative symptoms of schizophrenia can make motivational interviewing very difficult. That's one scenario I think of in my mind. Residual positive symptoms. In those cases, I combine motivational interviewing with structured support and behavioral modification. So rewards, and that's usually I work with the families to create small rewards so the person has structure to move towards rewards, and it might mean support and help from other people, from OT or people in the community, and then behavioral rewards to move there, as well as and I combine motivational interviewing. But those are more complex situations that motivational interviewing can lend a hand in, but you need other things in place to help it as well. CTOs, community treatment orders, and motivational interviewing can go hand in hand. CTOs.
It's a motivational interviewing that's building the relationship. Doesn't matter really. I mean, yes, you want to reach a solution, but it's time spent building the relationship and really listening and empathizing, putting your own, what you want them to do, putting your agenda aside. So hopefully down the road, like you said, it does take time.
Yes.
This isn't going to happen overnight. And you could certainly tell you were very skilled at doing this. It'll take a lot of practice, and I think that's why we're going to be doing next week or next month with more role playing or. Yeah.
Yep, in April.
And maybe what we'll have, if we're going to have a webcast, maybe we could have the questions up on a slide so people can, at home, can try and do it.
Yeah,
and
the
have
questions
it.
for the prescription is one, but not for the, but I can,
Yeah.
I can add in a slide, no problem. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Oh, thank you.
If the people, the contemplation conversation is like a rough guide to motivational interviewing. If you don't have a copy, you can come up to the front and collect a copy.
Zenovia, thank you so much. Okay. Do you have, are there any questions online?
Not so far,
No? No? Okay. I was just checking to see if there are questions
There's a
online.
few people that are checking right now.
Oh, they're gonna talk, okay, Zenovia, hang on. We've got some questions coming in. Sure.
If it's about solving, if it's a question about solving a problem within a personal family, then it's not something I can give an answer to online. If it's something about motivational interviewing, then I can, but if it's like my family member does this, then I would just suggest hold off until the next session.
Sure.
I can't answer complex dynamic family members with a simple sentence. So, have you got the answer to the question in
So
there?
far, it's just excellent topic and presentation, and that was great, well done.
Oh, great, good. Okay, so next, so we'll close our webcast portion of presentation, then we'll have a quick break, and then we'll have some discussion around, because I know there are people here who have been using motivational interviewing. Thank you so much, Zenovia. Good night. So good night, and I hope to see you next week. And for the people home, what we'll do is we'll have the questions, motivational interviewing. We'll have the guide. We'll have a slide prepared if you want to try it at home. Okay, thank you and good night.